Hi, John Harbaugh here with the Harbaugh Coaching Academy. The importance of coaches in the lives of young athletes can never be underestimated, especially today. I hope you enjoy the valuable, practical insights in this interview with our expert coach. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, Tom Crean, all these years as a head coach, you have coached many, many star players who have gone on to make lots of money. What's the biggest difference in coaching a star versus coaching your third guy off the bench?
I think the star can't see you coaching the third guy a lot differently, and the third guy can't see you coaching the star a lot differently. Now, with that being said, that's where accountability comes in. Everybody's got a different role. There's no doubt about that. But they got to be accountable to the role. And I think no matter where you're at on a team, you have to get them where you think they can go, right? And you can't put a ceiling on it. And I think when it comes to greatness, when it comes to stars, you have a responsibility as a coach. You have to bring that out. And in a sense of being a college coach, you know that if you do a really good job, you're not going to come close to getting the majority of what's inside of that person, because they're going to go on and they're going to do it at another level. But you have to get it as close as you can. And I think the biggest thing with players is they will let you coach each other differently if they know you're not giving in, and you're not giving in, if you're not allowing privilege to come in, right? Responsibility, earning it, all those different words. But the moment that you start coaching somebody that they are privileged, or they feel they're privileged, and you allow that to happen, now you're going to lose. You're going to not only lose the third guy on the team, you're going to lose people in the middle, and you can't do that.
So what's that? So we talk about this all the time. Fair does not necessarily mean equal. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate that? Is that trial and error?
Better know yeah, sometimes, but you better know the player. You better know the person. I think you always have to look at where a person is in relation to where they've got to go. And I think that's maturity levels, especially when you get really young guys. When you get 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds, and you've got some others that are 20, 21, 22 on the team. Well, there's no way they're going to be at that person's level. So you have to know where they're at, and you keep striving to helping them reach that maturity level that they've got to have off the court or off the field, and certainly that they've got to end up having on the court, knowing that it's not there right now. So you also sometimes have to explain to the other guys what you're trying to get across. But I think you have to, it's like turnovers, right? When somebody has got high risk, but there's high reward, you got to work with them to understand, okay, we might be able to get away with this turnover-wise, and I can maybe make this better, but I got to live with this a little bit. When you've got somebody that's just trying to take the game into their own hands, they're not putting winning at much of a premium. They're trying to make it about themselves, right? Like, that's when you've got to crack down. That's when you've got to make sure the accountability is right. Now, it might be different for the person that's in their third or fourth year. They shouldn't be making those same mistakes. So you hold them to their accountability level, but you try to explain to each other what you're trying to get.
When the 18-year-olds come to you, many of them are leaving home for the first time. How much of a responsibility do you feel that you have for them off of the court?
Immense.
Outside of your building?
And immense, because as a head coach, it doesn't matter if you want it, don't want it, you've got it, right? Bobby Bowden said it best: everything that happens in a program is a reflection upon its leader. And you are responsible for everything that happens. And you'd like to say, well, that's his department or that's her department. It's not the way it works. So if you're going to be responsible and held accountable when something goes wrong, you better make sure that you are working every day to help them understand what that is. And then, at the same time, expecting the people that are working for you. You know, there is no weak links on a staff if you're really going to win. So let's say I'm the head coach and I've got an assistant coach that helped recruit the player and is involved in their life. Yeah, they better feel responsibility for this, and I better be able to hold them accountable. Well, let's say there's a graduate assistant, or there's maybe a lower level staff member that doesn't maybe have all those, the title and things well, they've still got a responsibility too. Because at some point in time, not only are they going to want to grow as a coach, they're going to want to become a head coach. And when you become a head coach, you understand that it all stops with you, but you better make sure that you're teaching and getting the people in your program to understand their part in this as well. Because the easiest thing for an assistant coach, for somebody to do, is to turn their head to what is happening, to not feel the responsibility. I always say an assistant coach cannot treat things like it's a smorgasbord. You can't pick and choose what you want to be involved in. You can't say, well, I'm going to work on this, I'm going to work on that, but the rest of this stuff I'm shoving over here. Not if you want to be a head coach. And you have to keep teaching them. So not only are you teaching your players, you're teaching your coaches what the standards are, what you will accept, not accept, but most importantly, what they have to do to become great. And as big a part of greatness is on how well you play, it's equally or more on how you are off the court.
We'll get to developing coaches, but let's stick with the players for a little bit. You talk a lot about having to be honest with them and straight up with them. Sometimes that's not pleasant. How do you convey that you truly have someone's best interests at heart, whether you are talking to them about them getting their papers in on time or the way that they're showing up to practice?
Well, I think it's constant communication, and it doesn't necessarily mean you are consistent, okay, all the time with what you say, but you are consistent in your approach. And that means that they're going to see that you really are invested in them. I tell players all the time, I don't need the money that you're going to be trying to make. And in this NIL world, the money they have now. But I say, I've got my money. I've got my contract. I've coached a long time. Okay, I'm not going to ask you for a loan. What I'm trying to do is help you get to the place where you understand what it's going to take for you to get to where you want to go, how to stay where you want to go, and how to go above and beyond wherever you thought you could go. And I think that's a huge part of coaching. So I think it all starts with you. I think it starts with, okay, I have a vision for this player. I have a vision for where you can be. And if I don't feel strongly about holding you to that every day and working with you, the worst thing you can do is, hey, you got to get better at your right hand. You've got to get better at shooting the three. You've got to get better at this. And then I leave it to somebody else. No. For everything that you bring across that the player's got to improve upon, you better be invested in a part of their improvement. Like I always said, the player development coordinator on our staff was me, right? Because that's my responsibility too. You don't just leave it for other people to handle when you come up with it. That's another way that the players see that you're invested in them. And I think when you spend a lot of time with them, when you're willing to push them, when you'll sweat with them, when you'll be on the court with them, when you'll watch film with them, you can get the things that have to change or what they might see as negative, you can get that across a lot better. And when they know, when they really feel that you're invested with them, and sometimes it takes a lot longer than others. I mean, it takes a lot longer with some than others, but the bottom line is you got to work at it and you got to be consistent with your messaging. This is what it's going to take for us and for you to be successful.
Okay, so when you talk about vision, do you always convey your vision for a player to that player?
Absolutely. And when I haven't had it is when I've made mistakes. And here's the thing I learned along the way. Your vision and their vision could be entirely two different things. Because it's not two entirely different places that they want to go. Okay, I want you to make the NBA someday. Well, yeah, I want to be an NBA player. How you think you're going to get there and how I know it's going to take based on my experience for you to get there could be two entirely different ways, including your family, including other people in your life. I have to stay true to that and what I know works. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to have trial and error. That doesn't mean that we're not going to be flexible. It doesn't mean that we're not going to adjust as we go. But I have to have that vision of what kind of player, what kind of person, what kind of leader I think you can be. And if I can't see that, okay, that's on me. But if I don't hold you to that, that's on me too. And I think that's where you really got to be strong as a coach, and you just can't back off.
So if the vision is, let's say, diametrically different, for the sake of this exercise, we'll make it very simple. Let's say I really envision myself being a shooting guard who's good for 25 points a game. Mm-hmm. And you say, you know what, you are an outstanding distributor of the ball. I think you're a point guard. What do you do if there are two conflicting visions?
It's a very good point. I think you have to find out what a player's passions are versus what their strengths are. And I think, like, if you really want to score, I have to understand you are really driven, okay? Your passion is making threes. But your strengths are you can also pass the ball. right? Your strengths are that you can also get into the paint and make plays. I have to understand your passion. I have to keep making you better at your passion, which means your skills got to go up. Because you may love shooting threes and your hand may be off to the side, or you've got bad footwork, or you don't have the proper balance, your release isn't good, right? All these different things. So I've got to hold you and help you get to where you can be even better at your passion. All the meanwhile, I'm trying to get your strengths across to you. And hopefully your passion is going to turn out to be one of your strengths. And I'm going to work towards it. But we're not going to the game. Like I tell players all the time, we're not going into the game for you to try new things out. We're not going into the game for you to practice things you want to do. That's what practice and what extra work is for. We're going into the game to do what we do. And I think you have to understand and go along the way. There's a big, big difference a lot of times between those passions and strengths, but you better not neglect the passion if you really want to get the strength out, because the four-letter word in sports for younger people a lot of times is weakness, right? Improvement. Sometimes those are like four-letter words, right, in our day and age. And so you might have to rephrase, instead of weakness, well, I have a concern with this, right? Like you might have to rephrase what those type of things are, but it's the same thing. You're not as good at this. We've got to improve at this. And I'm going to be obsessed with your weaknesses, but I'm also going to make sure we don't get away from your strengths. And we're going to be committed to those strengths as well.
Okay, beyond vision, what are 3 keys that you think every coach needs to bring to the building every day?
Oh, there's no question. You've got to come in every day and you got to have your passion's got to show up. So practice floor, the office, the film room, if your passion is there, your energy and enthusiasm are going to be there. Okay? Number 2, you've got to understand the details. That's why coaches have got to continue to study. They've got to continue to study. They've got to study more than their team. They've got to study more than their players. They've got to study more than their recruits. You've got to study and learn, and you got to get your own personal energy from learning about players, learning about other players, learning about what it takes to win, so you can get better at teaching the details. And that may mean you have to ask somebody. But that's one of the great neglects in coaching, is really understanding the details that win for a lot of people that are getting into coaching. So you've got to come and understand, I'm going to learn the details and I'm going to teach the details. And with all that being said, if you don't have an ability to communicate, non-verbally and verbally, if you don't have an ability to connect with that person, to get them to feel that you're locked in, your communication, you've got to work at your communication constantly, because you've got to have it consistently. That doesn't mean you're going to consistently say same things, but that communication's got to be consistent, because you are in a world now where there's such a fight to get their attention. There's such a fight to get them to truly communicate. There's such a fight to truly get them to think for themselves and to speak and to understand. And what I'm always trying to do, especially in the short period of time a lot of times you have them in college, is get them to be able to fix their own game. Be able to look at this. And if you don't have a lot of questions, okay, about what you're doing, and if you don't have the ability to ask questions about what you need to do to improve, about how we're going to guard this, about what we're doing here, not be questioning all the time. But there's a place for questioning, but have questions. Okay, then all you do is become this person that gives answers, and eventually those answers that you're constantly giving to the media, to the fans in this NIL world with your appearances, all these different things, all of a sudden people get tired of those answers and they go to somebody else that's got better answers. And you have to work at that with guys.
So what have you done over the course of your career to make sure that your message doesn't get stale, that people are still listening? Because your central tenets will always be your central tenets, right? So how do you keep the message fresh?
I get no greater energy professionally than from learning, right? I mean, greatest energy is being with my family, watching them play. It's also can be stress and anxiety when you're watching your kids play. But outside of that, there's no greater energy for me than learning and then being able to bring it to somebody. You know, whether it's coaching, whether it's television now, like I want to bring what I'm learning across to a viewer. I want to bring what I know and what I'm learning across to a player. I want to help find a way, because a lot of times the details, the communication, the how you see the game, those become your edges. Fundamentals become your edge. And in so many cases, especially in the game of basketball, your fundamentals can be an edge, because so many people might think they have the fundamentals, but really their details and those fundamentals don't hold up when the pressure comes. So I'm constantly trying to get those to me. I love to learn. I love to study. I love to listen. I love to meet other leaders. I love to study other sports. I like to read, but I really love to see things. And I think that happens, that creates a creative in me, that creates an energy for me that now I can apply that to something I already know or something that I see or how it affects a certain individual. And I think it's ongoing. And I think that for me, I never have any trouble waking up every morning knowing that I got to get a lot better.
Let's go to the other sports. You obviously have all this football in your family, but you said Tony La Russa is one of your best friends. You cultivate relationships with people in other sports. Why?
Because I think you learn so much from it. I think leadership is leadership. So I guess in a sense, you become a fan of leadership, an admirer of leadership, but you love I love something that makes me think, right? I love something that, I can't stand status quo. Okay, maybe it's having a chaotic mind, but I can't stand just A, B, C, D, right? Like I don't see the world that way. So I think a lot of times when you're learning from other coaches, and not only you're learning from them on how it applies, but now you're taking something that they do, and you say, well, I could do this with footwork. I could do this with hands. I could see this in spacing. And I think anytime you can get around somebody, it should trigger your thinking. It should inspire you. And hopefully it's a two-way street where they feel like they're taking something from you too, because it becomes very organic, relationship, friendship-wise. Another thing I've learned about greats, whether it be Bill Belichick, obviously I'm biased with the Harbaughs when it comes to greats, but Pat Riley, I could go right on down the line. When you find somebody and they know that your intentions are pure, that you're not trying to get something from them, you're not trying to trick them into something, you're not asking them for something that they don't want to do. When you truly want to learn, the greats have an interest in helping other people do that. That's one thing that I have been unbelievably blessed and fortunate to come across. Not everybody, right? Not everybody. You're going to run into that sometimes. But it's amazing what happens that the people that you see are the smartest people in the room. They don't see themselves that way because they want to be learners too. And they love to continue to help you learn if your intentions are pure on what you're trying to get from them.
Okay, so are you more likely to get advice from Jim or John?
Oh, I think both. I think it's...
Does one give unsolicited advice more than the other?
Not the way we talk. I think it all comes up in different ways. No, I think it's pretty natural because a lot of times when you're together, it's conversational and it's about a lot of different things. But a lot of times during the seasons when you're on the phone, yeah, you might be calling to check on them, they might be calling to check on you, but it's going to move to a specific topic. And I think because everybody's so busy, right? Like you're going to talk for a long time, and I can remember pretty much everything that I talk about with Jim and with John because it's not fluff. It's not, hey, yeah, did you watch this? We're not talking about TV shows. We're not talking about music. It's very, and I think they know that from me. Like it's going to be, we're going to try to help each other. And it's just the way it is. And so I don't think, I've never been asked that question, but I don't think I could pinpoint one more than the other. It's just very, very natural. And sometimes guys will want to talk. Sometimes they won't want to talk, and you respect that as well. But most of the time, it's going to turn into something where you're getting energy from each other on what you're talking about, and you feel like it's helping you.
What is one way you and Jim Harbaugh are similar coaches?
He's so competitive. I think they both have this, but I would say this. I don't think Jim accepts weakness in a player. I don't think he sees a weakness and says, I can't fix that. Or we can't get better at that. Or I can't make this person overcome that with competitiveness. And you see what's wrong, but you don't live on what's wrong, right? And you see what's right, and you try to help them get better at that. Well, I think if I had to sum up some of my coaching, I would say I was more obsessed with fixing the weaknesses than I was dialing into the strengths. Now, you certainly got to go to the strengths when it's game time. But player development is the cornerstone of everything I've ever done in coaching. And I think a lot of that, to me, it's different in business sometimes. The great Peter Drucker would disagree with the weakness part. But to me, I think that's one of the drives in coaching. And I think Jim has got a lot of that in him. I think Jim wants competitors. Like if you're a non-competitor, I think Jim can lose interest real quick. But if you're a competitor and you love football and he sees weaknesses that you can overcome, he's going to believe he can help you overcome them.
Okay, what about John Harbaugh? What's the way that John
I could say
Harbaugh
that
is a
with
similar
him.
coach to you?
I would say that with him, but I think John has got an incredible ability to make you. Jim can make you believe in more of yourself through competition and through what competing can do for you. John can make you believe more in yourself based on what he sees inside of you and convinces you is inside of you. John can convince you that you are way better than what you're playing. You are way stronger than what you're showing. You have more in you, and you're more valuable to this team than you realize. I think they both can see weakness. They both don't accept weakness. They're very similar in a lot of ways. Both incredibly competitive. Their competitiveness comes out in their teams. But I think John, if in answer to your question, that would be him. He has a belief in you that he can help. He's going to stay with you till you bring it out. And if he's done everything he can do that he can't get it out of you, well, then you're probably going to part ways. But he is going to stick with you to get you to believe what he sees in you.
You like to say awareness is a fundamental.
I heard that from Bill Belichick.
So
I give full credit.
plagiarized it.
Oh, I stole it. I stole it. But I definitely give him credit every time I use it.
So then why is that so meaningful? Why do you repeat it?
Because I think there's too many coaches that don't understand that it's part of our awareness is going to be a key too. And I think sometimes in coaching, you can be brought up to believe that coaching success comes down to what you don't see and what you don't hear. And I've never believed in that. I've never, ever believed in that. You know, I've heard another coaching part that says, okay, coaching comes down to solving problems and solving differences. Yeah, I believe that. And then there could be, well, let's not see this. No, you have to see it. You have to see everything because as the leader, you're responsible for it. So why would you not see it or have people around you that can see it? And I think awareness is a fundamental for a player, is equally as important for the coach. You have to see when they're struggling. You have to dig into why they are struggling. You have to help them understand not only the space that they play with on the field and on the court, but the spaces that they're living in and what people want from them, who's around them. You have to go deep with your players. I mean, you got to personalize the message. Okay, you've got to go deep with the players, and you've got to be willing to go when they don't want to go anymore, right? And I think that awareness, you know, there's an old adage by General Hal Moore, great general, and he's got a lot of them, but one is this: when there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong, except there's nothing wrong. And that's when a leader's got to be their most aware, okay? And I think he's absolutely right. Like, you can't take everything like it's, now you don't want to create issues, and you don't want to see mountains when they're just molehills. You know, sometimes in coaching, you want to turn a molehill into a mountain to get their attention. But you got to see the signs, right? Like, you got to look at it. You got to see, why are they struggling? What can I do to unlock it? What can I do to help them get an edge? What's it going to take for this person to be, like I said, understand the space, be more spatial on the court? Like, especially in basketball, success comes down to your weak side offense and your weak side defense. It's not necessarily what the person is that has the ball. Obviously, the ball scores. But it's that weak side offense, weak side defense. Is there movement on the weak side? Are you aware and can do different things to take things away on the weak side defensively? It all comes down to awareness. And if you're, as a coach, not aware of what they need to get better at, what they might be dealing with, what could be coming up for them, where they're heading, what they're coming from, then you're not doing your job. And I think what happens for anybody that's listening to this, that's in this full dose of transactional world that college sports has become with the NIL and the transfer portal and things like that, you can't coach guys and ladies transactionally. You can't coach with a transactional mindset. They might leave, yes. They may transfer at the end of the year, yes. They may go to all these different schools. But at the end of the day, while they are with you, you have got to plant the seeds. You have got to do the things that are going to make them better. Because first and foremost, you've got to win with them. So get selfish for a minute. You've got to get everything out of them so that you can win as a program and as a coach. But if you don't dive into player development, personal and professional, and the way that they play, the way that they live, all you're doing is wasting your time and wasting their time. Then it becomes truly transactional. Well, they made this amount of money. They got that amount of money. And that's coming now. That's where it's at. But it really doesn't matter if it's high school, junior high, college, pro. The more you coach with a transactional mindset, the worse you're going to be. The worse you're going to be, because at some point in time, you'll win battles, but you're not going to win those wars that you got to win. And I think you have to work at that, and awareness starts with you.
Well, and that goes back to your credo that players can't be commodities, that you have to show that you care about them.
Yeah, I cringe when I see people talk about assets, right? Well, it's this asset, they've got this. Well, maybe, draft pick is an asset. I get that. You know, you got 3 third-round draft picks. You got 3 more assets in the 3rd round. But that player, when you draft them, that player that's on your team, they're not an asset. They're not a number. I mean, they're really not, okay? You have to dive in. You have to dive in. And in college sports, it's going to be shorter than ever. You know, it used to be, well, they could transfer and sit out a year, or they could graduate and transfer, or they could go pro. Well, now they can leave whenever they want, right? And they can leave 4 or 5 different times if they want, depending on how many years they're in college. And the bottom line is, if you coach with that mindset, you're just giving in. You're giving in to these elements on the outside that say, hey, well, we may not have them that long anyways. We may not have her with us that long anyways. You can't do it. And I think it becomes very, very easy in this day and age to see price tags. What's this player want? What's this player getting? What's the market value? But at the end of the day, and if anything, it gives the coach, to me, more leeway to really push and drive them. I may have you a short time. I've always been like this since I had guys that I knew I wouldn't have very long in college. Our last one was Anthony Edwards. I knew we wouldn't have him long. So if I didn't speed the process up for him, even maybe at times mentally making him go faster than maybe he wanted to go at 18 years of age with understanding what he was going to need to understand, then I was shortcutting him. I was shortchanging him. That didn't mean he was going to get it, but it meant that it was going to be in there, so someday it would come out.
What about now? You were coach and you are coach for life, whether it's Dwayne Wade or
Sure.
Anthony Edwards. How do you make sure that you're still a resource, that you're a friend,
Sure.
but once they're off your team, that you're still a resource for them?
Oh, I've learned that you don't ever stop being their coach. Now, you're not their present day coach, so I think you got to stay away from letting them be a victim. You got to stay away from them complaining. You might hear it out a little bit, but then you got to come up with a solution. It's okay to hear somebody complain, about their coach or complain about what they're doing. But the moment you co-sign it, now you've crossed a line that you should never cross as a coach. You should, if you have a problem with your coach, and I'm listening to you and you played for me, I should be giving you ways to fix that. I should be giving you some tools that you can try to use. I might go, man, you're right. You got to talk to your agent. You got to get out of there. Then I'm scum of the earth, right? They got all kinds of people that can tell them that. That's not how I raised them in my time with them as a coach. And that's certainly not how their families raised them, but that's not what I did as a coach. So I try to stay in great touch with them. And it's a lot of it to me is like what coaching becomes during the game. It becomes reminders. You're really not teaching new things during the game. You're teaching things in film and in practice. But in games, you're giving reminders. So a lot of times for me, it's like, hey, you're not stepping into that enough. Or, hey, you need to use the backboard more. You know, you're taking some tough shots. You're not ready to shoot, or you're driving into traffic. I'd like to think that I'm saying the same things that A, their coach would say, or that B, their coach would want me to say. Because obviously we wouldn't be talking about it if there wasn't respect level, right? So the bottom line is I'm trying to help them be the best they can be, which makes the team be the best that they can be. But really what happens more and more than any of that, it becomes about family, it becomes about issues, it becomes about relationships, it becomes about business, it becomes about continuing to help them have the tools that they need in their life. And for me, a big part of it is continuing, because there's 3 things that I've never really deviated from that I learned as a younger coach that just crystallize more as you go. When they leave you, no matter when they leave you, they should leave you being much better problem solver than what they were, okay? And being able to deal with other people and being able to help solve those problems. They should be even more selfless than what they were. And it in this day and age where everything gets so noticed and social media, so much of this, no, you may need to still stop and help that person change their tire, or give that person $100 or $25 that has nothing, and you don't need it to end up on Instagram, right? And so you teach that selflessness that's got to come, and you try to embody that. But still, to me, I'll never change. They're going to be the spiritual leader of their home. And any way that I can continue to help with that and help give reminders of that and help give advice on that, I'm going to do it. Because some leave and they're the spiritual leaders of their home because they already have a family, like a Dwayne Wade, and some are going to have them in a short period of time. Some may go down the road and it's going to take a while. But at some point in time, they, with their spouse, in many cases, are going to be the spiritual leaders of their home. And at the end of the day, that is, there's not even a close second to what's most important in any of these relationships.
Visit HarbaughCoachingAcademy.org.